When people hear the name Titanic, they don't just think of a ship. They think of a legend, a tragedy, and a story that has lived on for more than a century. It was not just a ship, it was a dream. A symbol of human progress and the promise of a new era of ocean travel. Yet, in the dead of night, in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic, that dream was shattered forever. The Titanic was built at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast, Ireland. It was the pride of the White Star Line, a British shipping company determined to dominate the transatlantic passenger trade. They wanted a ship so large, so luxurious, and so advanced that no rival could compete. By the time Titanic was completed in 1912, it was the largest moving object ever built by humans. It stretched more than 880 feet, with 9 decks, 4 massive funnels, and interiors that rivaled the grandest hotels of Europe. It wasn't just transportation, it was a floating palace. People called it unsinkable. Why? Because of its advanced safety design. Titanic was divided into 16 watertight compartments, separated by bulkheads that could be sealed in case of damage. Engineers believed that even if 4 flooded, the ship would still stay afloat. This confidence led to fewer lifeboats being added. Titanic carried only 20, enough for about half the passengers on board. At the time, outdated regulations allowed this. No one imagined that a ship so massive could ever truly sink. On April 10, 1912, Titanic set sail from Southampton, England. Its maiden voyage would take it across the Atlantic to New York City. On board were more than 2,200 people. Rich millionaires, middle-class families, immigrants chasing the American dream, and a crew determined to keep everything perfect. First-class passengers enjoyed unmatched luxury. Private promenades, suites, fine dining, smoking rooms, Turkish baths, and the now famous grand staircase. Second class was stylish and comfortable. Teachers, tourists, and professionals relaxed in libraries and dining halls that rivaled first-class service on other ships. Third class, called steerage, was modest, but far better than on most ships. For many immigrants, Titanic symbolized hope and a fresh start in America. The first few days of the voyage were calm. Passengers strolled the decks, listened to the band, and marveled at the invincible vessel. But in the North Atlantic, icebergs drifted silently. Other ships in the area sent wireless warnings to Titanic. Ice ahead! Still, Titanic pressed on at nearly full speed, 22 knots. Captain Edward Smith, nearing retirement, commanded the ship. Some say he was under pressure to prove Titanic's power. A fast arrival in New York would mean fame and prestige for the White Star Line. On April 14, 1912, the sea was unusually calm. No moon, no waves, the water like glass. These conditions made spotting icebergs even harder. Lookouts in the crow's nest had no binoculars, only their eyes scanning the darkness. At 11:40 p.m., lookout Frederick Fleet saw it. A massive iceberg loomed directly ahead. He rang the warning bell and shouted down to the bridge, "Iceberg, right ahead!" First Officer William Murdoch reacted instantly. He ordered the ship to turn hard to port and reversed the engines. But Titanic was too massive to turn quickly. Moments later, the iceberg struck. It scraped along the starboard side, tearing open 300 feet of hull. 6 watertight compartments flooded, 2 more than the ship could survive. The unsinkable ship was fatally wounded. Many passengers barely felt the impact. In first class, some heard only a shudder and went back to bed. But Captain Smith was soon told the truth. Designer Thomas Andrews inspected the damage and delivered the grim verdict. The Titanic had less than 2 hours to live. Lifeboats were ordered ready. But confusion spread. Passengers hesitated. Why board small wooden boats when the great Titanic seemed steady? Crew training was poor. Some lifeboats left half empty. Boat number 1 carried only 12, though it could hold 65. Families were torn apart by the rule. Women and children first. Fathers and husbands stayed behind, waving goodbye. On deck, the band led by Wallace Hartley played music. They hoped to calm the passengers with hymns and waltzes. Wireless operators Jack Phillips and Harold Bride sent desperate signals. CQD and SOS echoed into the night. But the closest ship, the Californian, only 10 miles away, never answered. Its wireless operator had gone to bed. The Carpathia, more than 50 miles away, heard the calls and rushed at full speed. But it was hours too far. Lifeboats lowered into the freezing sea. Many passengers had no choice but to jump into the icy water. The temperature was below freezing. Most died within minutes from hypothermia. As the bow sank, the stern rose high into the sky. Lights flickered. Screams filled the night. The mighty ship broke apart. At 2:20 a.m., Titanic slipped beneath the waves forever. More than 1,500 people were lost. Only about 700 survived in lifeboats, waiting in the dark. At dawn, Carpathia arrived. Survivors, frozen and shocked, were pulled aboard. The world was horrified. How could the unsinkable sink on its very first voyage? Anger grew when it was revealed lifeboats had left half empty. Safety rules were outdated, and arrogance had cost countless lives. Investigations in the U.S. and Britain exposed the truth. New laws required enough lifeboats for all and round-the-clock wireless operators. Titanic became more than a disaster. It was a symbol of human ambition and human failure. For decades, the legend only grew. Books, films, and survivors' stories kept the mystery alive. In 1985, the wreck was discovered on the ocean floor, 2.5 miles deep, split in two, preserved in silence. Images showed haunting remains, china plates lying untouched, shoes scattered in the sand, a ghostly grand staircase in ruins. The wreck reminded the world this was not just a story, but a tragedy of real people. Even today, over a century later, Titanic captures the imagination. It is not just about how a ship sank, but about human dreams and human limits. Titanic teaches us the cost of arrogance and the fragility of life against nature. Its legacy is the safety we now take for granted at sea. Its memory lives on in every ship that sails today. The Titanic may rest at the bottom of the Atlantic, but its story will never die. It is a tale of triumph and tragedy, of hope and heartbreak, forever echoing through history.